Alright, so I'm out here in 08 Alpha Airport, which is Wetumpka, Alabama. Bert Sparrow built an exceptionally nice Zenith CH750 STOL, and we're going to go all over the airplane, crawl all over it today. We met Bert at a fly-in about a year ago, and then later saw a video he produced showcasing his aircraft. Considering all the detail and multiple aircraft and cars he has built, we could tell he is a true craftsman and traveled out to his home airport to give you an up-close look.
Hey, Bert Sparrow here. I'm a retired Air Force officer, born and raised in Alabama, and I retired out of the Air Force about 10 years ago. I was not a pilot or a navigator, but I was into RC airplanes. And I started to get into home-built airplanes when I built a P-51 that took me 800 hours. My friends who were pilots said, "Why don't you build a real airplane?" So that led me to build my Fokker D7, which some of you all may have seen. And at the same time, I was building a Zenith 750. So this is my pride and joy, and so is the Fokker. I enjoy each of them equally. I'm a low and slow kind of guy, but I'm retired Air Force, and I just kind of restore cars. I still work for the Air Force, and I just enjoy flying a Zenith and my Fokker.
Bert, obviously there's a lot of options out there to build these days. What made you choose the Zenith, and specifically the Zenith STOL?
Well, as a low and slow kind of guy, around 2012, 2013, it seemed like the gold standard in the community was this Zenith 701. And I went out there and I did the rudder building workshop, and then I went out and I visited Robert Bosley out there in Missouri. Couldn't make up my mind, and in the end, as a low and slow kind of guy, and the STOL thing was kind of getting its legs, I was like, how cool is that? How fun is that? And the other thing is the Rotax 912 was really big, and we've got a certified Rotax center with Morris and Ronnie just a couple hours away. And so I was like, a lot of people, there's a plane taking off right now, a lot of people were like, oh, those are ugly airplanes, but like Sebastian says all the time, form follows function, and I didn't care. I just thought the Zenith 750 was the coolest thing, and the leading edge slats, and I wasn't going to go anywhere fast, but if I wanted to put it down on a sandbar, or if I had a little spot next to a bean field or a cotton patch, I could do it. How cool is that? And I've done that. There's a barbecue joint about 30 miles west of here, like on a Saturday. Think of this. It's Saturday night, 6 o'clock, 90 degrees outside. Boom, I go fly in the field, plop down in the field right next to them, go have a barbecue sandwich, and then fly home. So that's kind of cool.
Bert, what was, first of all, how long did it take you to build this? And then talk about some of the options, both factory and then personal touches you've put on the aircraft.
Well, it took me 3 years of part-time building over a 4-year period. And I would just try to do a little something every day, go around on the dinner, and I find myself like on Saturdays, before you know it, you're out there and all of a sudden it's after dinner time. And I just really enjoyed the building. And so since this was my second build and my Fokker was my first build, and that is basic fast food electronics, very basic build, I want to go up. I always wanted to have a step more in capability and a challenge to myself. So yes, I wired that airplane. This, with the whole Garmin suite, wiring that was a much more of a bigger challenge for me, a challenge that I enjoyed. One strength of the Zenith with Rotax is their combination of plans as well as building instructions, and then the forum, and then I also did the home build help videos. And so all of that kludged together, I would get a common sight picture on this is what I'm doing today, and I'd sit there, and it's a little 2-car garage. I've got a little shop out next to my house, and I built this all right there.
All right, let's talk about some of the finishing work, and that is interior and paint. How much of that did you do yourself, and what was the pros and cons of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of options, and Zenith is great as far as having a lot of options. But as far as the paint job, which you'll probably see if you get to that, this was painted by Leon down in Luverne, not Laverne, but Luverne, Alabama, about 60 miles south of Montgomery. He did a great job. And when you look at it, I said, how can you have a Zenith that doesn't have the checkerboard, a 750 STOL that doesn't have the checkerboard? But that's the paint job, and I'm sure you'll get pictures of that. But on the inside, I did, the funny story there is I did Home Depot, just some very thin carpeting like you might put on a deck. And I used the glue that they recommended, and I came out the next day and it had all fallen down and fallen forward. So I ended up pulling all that out because I wanted it for not just sound deadening, but it also looked good as opposed to bare metal. And boy, it really does. It's super quiet in there. But I have a stock Zenith seats, the stock Zenith side panels, and it's a Home Depot carpeting, and I just use 3M glue to glue it myself, and everything else is pretty standard.
We are partnering with great companies like Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, Airtech Coatings at AirTechCoatings.com, Clemens Insurance at ClemensInsurance.net, The Aviators Clinic at aviatorsclinic.com. Foxtrot 95, Calhoun County Airport at flyfoxtrot95.com. Edge Performance at edgeperformance.no. Take a moment to go visit their websites at the links found below in the description of this video. And visit our website at experimentalaircraftchannel.com for events, our video library arranged in easy-to-find playlists on specific topics, affiliate products, aviation merchandise, and so much more. All right, so shifting on into the inside here, and obviously we'll get some shots of your interior work, but yeah, walk us through your choice of avionics.
Okay, I got the standard Garmin G3X that you see. I like this carbon fiber look that you see, and that's not actual carbon fiber. That's a decal from 3M that I put on there. But this is just in the center location. A lot of Zenith builders, they might make it a little bit more over here, but then the person who's the passenger doesn't equally see it and take an enjoyment and so forth. So I have the G3X here. On the far left, here's my throttle, and I have the standard Zenith provided. This is my flaps. One builder's tip here is, like my tech counselor Dan Horton told me, you want to have your flaps right here, like for a go around or anything, you want to be able to control it. And then here's my choke, and this is the standard Zenith trim down and trim indicator. That's a standard ELT. One of the things, I've got a transponder and a radio here, is I didn't need, and this is a standard Garmin radio, that 800, I probably could have, it's the size of an 8-track, I'm showing my age here, but it fits right, it could fit right behind there, and you control it with the Garmin. I probably should have done that. These little switches down here are just basically little push buttons, and I really like them. They came from Dell, and I like them, and it was super easy. I thought about doing what a lot of Zenith builders do, is that fuse thing here. But this is all here, and then of course on the right hand side is I've got the fuse drop down. But this is the center console option from Zenith as well, and I've got a basic master switch and the basic key switch that you typically see. I've got the USB port, so if I'm flying somewhere and I need to charge a phone or an iPad, I can do that. And then here's my headset. I chose just the Y stick because I've been in and out of ones that had it here, and you talk about difficulty getting your legs in, and I'm not super tall at 6'2". I was having problems with that. It would be nice to me in a perfect world if this were back several more inches. Initially when I built this, I had the adjustable kit, but I've got it right now as far back as absolute possible, and you see my knees have this much, are raised this much. So I do have to fly with my knees a little more forward up than I would prefer, and that's with the pedals adjusted as far forward as you can.
How tall are you, Bert?
6'2", 6'2".
Okay.
And I'm 6'2" and about 220, 225, and so that's just as a base. And so when I was sitting in here, my God, I felt like a freaking giant with my head hitting the ceiling with the. So I ended up taking those out and just using essentially just nut plates and just putting nut plates into the structure. And it's even adjustable. I can adjust this thing forward or back. But that was just one. And again, this is a Zenith stock cushion. Again, this is Home Depot carpet. And that's the Zenith side panel. So. And we were talking off camera for a second, Bert, that the limiting factor on sliding the seat back is actually the pivot point, which you can show right now. So I can show you here. So, but before you look at that, this chair is back as far as possible. This one is up about 2.5 inches. Okay. But right here, if you want to lean forward, what happens is this bar hits that back piece. So right now, if I were over here, boom, within 1/4 of an inch it hits. But I wanted the ability to put, yeah, see how that hits right there? Yeah, so if it was back a couple inches, it wouldn't be able to go forward. If it was back another inch, I couldn't. And I wanted to have luggage back here. I wanted to be able to access inspection ports and get into inspect this kind of stuff. And you really can't do that unless, so right now, if I need to get in the back seat, I can't do it from behind the pilot. I have to go to the passenger because it was more important for me to mount this chair or this seat as far back as I possibly could. And now, let's talk about what actually pulls this thing through the air, the engine. All right, Bert, moving on to the engine. That is a hot topic for everybody building an airplane, right? And you chose a Rotax. So why did you choose the Rotax for your build? Here is the unusual situation about me as opposed to anyone else, is back in 2012, I had an engine and I was in search of an airplane. And everybody else, they have an airplane and they're looking for an engine for it. For me, I had this Rotax 912 and service from Morris and Ronnie down there, and I was searching and searching. I was looking in kit planes, sport aviation, all the ultralight magazines, and I kept coming down to a Zenith 701. And forgetting the fact that I had a hard time fitting in there with Roger. Roger can fit in there at his $160, but I kind of had a harder problem. And then the 750, all of a sudden, 2012, 2013, I kept seeing about this Zenith 750. And I just loved it. It's like everywhere I was looking, the gold standard. I didn't see much at that time from Viking, although that was out there. UL Power, I didn't see much from Jabiru. There was some issues there. And I was like, you know what? Here's the number one reason is in the hangar next to me, Rotax. Two down is another Rotax 912. The hangar behind me, Rotax 912. There's nobody at my airport that flies a Jabiru. There's nobody at my airport that flies a UL Power. So to me, the decision calculus was, if I need any expertise or any tips and tricks, I have exhaustive Rotax experience in Central Alabama right here. And besides, Morris and Ronnie are just a couple of hours away. So I had this engine, and this is a Rotax 912 ULS. It's the big bore kit. And so a lot of questions come, okay, is it worth 15 more horsepower for $5,000? I was about 25 hours in my flight testing, and granted, I'm at 200 feet elevation and it's pretty hot in Central Alabama. I didn't really need it, but I'm not going to enter STOL competitions. I'm just kind of a Joe fun flyer who might do a few little things. The reality was, I thought I might want that extra vertical speed. So when I got the big bore kit, it gave me about 5 miles an hour more airspeed. I had to adjust the prop pitch, and it gave me probably 300 feet per minute more climb. So it was worth it in that regard. But this is the standard Zenith firewall forward kit. One of the obvious things you'll notice here is how much space there is behind the engine, and that was because the builder forum in Zenith kept recommending for weight and balance, I need to push it as far forward as I can. And so it is very far forward, but Zenith gives you great products, and so everything fits. You just kind of work it yourself. I've had to adjust some baffling and things like that, but I got from Aircraft Specialty the hoses, these fireproof steel hoses. Got those from Aircraft Specialty, and I have a standard fuel cube. I've got an EarthX lithium battery. Other than that, it's pretty standard, and this is just me mounting it and me installing it, and I'm nobody. I'm just some old retired Air Force guy that if I can do it, you can do it. And again, I come from a background, excuse me, I come from a background of building giant scale RC airplanes. And then I got into building, spars are spars, ribs are ribs. So real airplanes or model airplanes, that's kind of how I got into this. And I kind of equally enjoy building and flying as well. But I will say Rotax was the right decision for me. Right now, so we're talking about the airplane weighs, even after paint, 788 pounds. And this is a super light engine. And even with the 15 extra horsepower, there is no weight gain from that. So 788 pound airplane with 115 horsepower.
So I want to just jump in real quick. Bert was just saying and quoting his great empty weight on this aircraft, which is incredible, the 788 pounds. But just to clarify for everybody building out there, because I thought this, the 750 platform, if you will, which has the STOL and the cruiser, the fuselage is very much similar, but there's many other things that are different. The wings are different, the skins are different in certain areas, the elevator and the ailerons, flaperons are counterbalanced. All these things add weight. So if you're building a STOL, you are going to be much lighter no matter what you do than a cruiser. There's just no way around it. There's more metal and there's more options built into the cruiser than the STOL. So if you build this in this exact configuration as Bert has, with the Rotax, with the Garmin, with the interior, with the paint, as a cruiser, you will not be able to achieve that weight. Okay, so I just want to clarify that to everybody. I mean, unless you strip this thing down completely naked and you put helium in the tires, you might be able to get to 788 pounds, but not in a cruiser.
The only difference might be is that I have struts. I think you've only got in the cruiser, you've got one strut, or do you have jury struts?
We have one strut, but we have more ribs, many more ribs.
More ribs.
Yes.
Interesting. As far as performance, when I take off, am I at 1,000, 1,200 feet per minute? Yes. It all depends on what I'm doing, the density, altitude, that type stuff. I might fly. This is a STOL, not a cruiser, so I might fly 85, 88, or if I really, push the throttle and burn upwards of 6.5 or 7 gallons an hour, close to full throttle, I might go 90, 92. I did have the props set at one time. I was flying 93 to 95 miles an hour, but I wanted to kind of get an equal balance between cruise speed and climb out. And I'm kind of just this side of giving me more STOL performance, if you will.
Thanks, Bert, for that in-depth, deep dive tour into your aircraft and sharing your passion for aviation. Join us next time for more original aviation content right here on the Experimental Aircraft channel. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss a single episode.